Thank you very much, Gary. Quite informative, and you know, I think he's probably right on target. That you know, we've got to address really the problems that I think most people, at least from a Tea Party sense, have determined that this legislation has you know, really portrayed, and that is that, you know, it doesn't, the textbooks are really the key. Because we don't know what's going to be taught. It only is in the textbooks that we can get some sense as to what will be taught. And from most of what I've read, that has been extremely liberal. And if we can really address it from that perspective, you know, and I guess through the Tea Parties, because there are a lot of Tea Parties that are fired up about this. I'm on a conference call on Wednesday nights, and Common Core is always one of the main subjects in that discussion. And there are some counties that are very, very active in this. But how on earth do you find what's in the textbooks?
You have to pass it to find out what's in it. Yep.
Pardon?
Yep. You have to pass it to find out what's in it.
Yeah,
That's a stool sample.
That's
I agree with the purchase of the textbook.
well, it's all
The
really
school.
up to the school
That's
districts.
right. So who looks at what's in the textbook
Jackie, maybe you could comment
before
on
they
that.
approve it?
Jackie Leonard is on the school board.
But you don't have to approve the textbooks as a school board.
Pennsylvania is contractually obligated and was through Rendell and Corbett.
Okay, here's my big question. You keep saying that somebody says it's not going to cost you any more. What do you mean by that? When somebody says or comes out with the fact that it's not going to cost you any more.
Well, here, let me tell you what they said in response to that last Thursday, okay? You're going to have to buy new textbooks on occasion anyways. So what's the difference if now you have to buy a new literature textbook? You were going to buy a new literature textbook anyway. Now you're buying one that supports this new curriculum.
Okay.
Answer number one. Answer number two. You are always putting your teachers, okay, through a process of re-education, retraining, getting them ready for this, getting them ready for that. Okay. And again, I'm just telling you what they're saying, okay? So if you're going to have to orient your teacher towards some new curriculum, okay, that's called Common Core, what have you, yeah, there's a cost associated with that, but you're already doing that kind of work with your teachers anyways.
But I want to decide what it is. I don't want to have you tell me what it is.
But no, wait a minute. There's an important thing we all have to remember here, okay? Once you accept and adopt the curriculum, the textbook drives the curriculum. The teacher teaches to the curriculum based upon what's in the text. And oh, by the way, all of that is reinforced with the exam.
They provided for me. Because I'll adopt it, but who says that I have to purchase it?
If you don't purchase the text and the curriculum material that supports the curriculum, the kids are going to flunk the Keystone exams. And if the kids flunk the Keystone exams, okay, see what I'm saying? It's all interlinked, okay? Now, whether you like it or not, that's what it is.
Jackie, did you have an answer?
Not buying that.
First off, I want to make a little clarification. We at Pocono Mountain have already adopted the Common Core curriculum, so it's already in full effect, so it's not going to happen. It's already there. So it's right, since as Mike said, since we did, accepted the raise to the top money. We take this, Mabel speak.
Yeah, maybe.
No, go ahead. Anyway, so the graduation requirements have already been changed. Anyway, we were just talking about it, we have a pilot program for our textbooks. So it's three different types of textbooks, and professional development goes through selecting which textbooks would be right for that curriculum.
But, you know, as I looked at it and I tried to read some of the textbooks, it looked to me like it really is what is in the textbook that is the key to most of the objection to Common Core. Some of the curriculum and the teaching methods and those kind of things, you know, in a 48-page, Pocono Mountain School District memo that I tried to read most of, made some sense. Yes, Brad?
Mike, go ahead.
Just to give you an example of how insidious this is, I was looking at some examples over the weekend. And in the 4th grade textbook, on the part on commas, punctuation, the statement is, it's the president's job to determine if the law is fair. Okay? It's the president's. And they're trying to teach the kids punctuation. So subliminally, what is the message the child gets? That's the president's job, to determine if the law is fair. This is the kind of thing that's in there.
I seen one where it actually said that the citizens have to obey the government.
Yes.
I also seen somewhere the Second Amendment is being attacked.
Yeah.
I mean, they're totally twisting the Constitution around. Now, I understand what she was trying to say. You know, it's all intertwined. I understand that. But I understand what she's saying too. Now, I'll give you an example. There's an 11th grade book that they were pushing on the kids called The Bluest Eyes. I don't know if anybody heard of it. By Toni Morrison.
Yeah.
It's about incest and pedophilia.
Yeah.
What?
So I've been working with this lady behind the scenes, and I've been giving her material. She's been giving it to the proper people. That book is no longer on. So there is things that we can do. I mean, the brunt of this whole Common Core thing, he's right, is lock, stock, and barrel. They got a plan. But that doesn't mean that we still, as a community, can't stop certain things. I managed to stop this book behind the scenes. So there is things that we can do.
To dovetail on what you're saying, Mike, and obviously what Cindy has been saying, I got a question basically. If they drop it down to 5 keystone tests, then it's up to local school boards to determine what textbooks are used in order to teach that curriculum. So they can choose which textbooks they use to do it. But the problem is, what I'm finding and what I'm hearing is that the choice is not there that we need in order to do that. There's not enough textbooks that have been written that will go ahead and teach the test, the keystone tests,
Oh, no, absolutely.
that we have a choice from, and we're going to have to start to create a demand for it.
We can find a different one. We can make them give us a different one.
That still teach
That's
the standard, the Common Core standards,
That's right.
which are higher, which I'm all in agreement with. But, as far as how you get there, we're talking about process here.
Yeah.
See, the problem.
And they're talking end result, and we're talking process. We got to talk about the journey to there, and that's got to be with the correct textbooks.
I think most school districts, and I don't know for sure, I'm still on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
But I think
Me
most
too.
school districts are gonna take the easy way out.
Exactly.
Okay?
What's recommended?
Yeah, I mean, there's a model curriculum that's on the PDE website. And it's a model curriculum that's supportive of all of these standards and what have you. Now, maybe that Conestoga High School down there in Lancaster, I mean, anything comes Harrisburg.
I would look at their textbooks,
That's
absolutely.
Exactly what I'm thinking.
So most school districts are gonna suck that model curriculum down, and it's gonna become theirs. So, the people in Harrisburg say, no mandated curriculum. Well, that's true. Well, the school districts are gonna take the one that's, and then,
Easiest.
easy.
That's why we
absolutely.
gotta think outside the box
Absolutely.
and look at that place down in Lancaster, see what they're using for textbooks, and then start using it in our own high schools and
That's right.
schools.
We need change.
Yes, sir.
My question regarded an incident that was in the news like last year or around that time. There was a situation in Britain where a first grade English textbook had like an illustration in it. It was an illustration of the Middle East, but it referred to Israel as occupied Palestine. Yeah, is there anything relating to that that could?
There is some stuff on that. I mean, we're living in a country right now where your kids can't even bring to school a candy cane, for God's sake, because it represents the staff of Christ. But they got school trips, taking these kids to mosques, and letting the imams, people discuss the 7 pillars of Islam, whatever that is. You know what I'm saying? So, it's totally insidious what's going on with this Common Core.
So, Mike,
But I've seen that.
So when you, actually you have a lot of school board directors here involved and future school board directors. So when your experience, when you went before a board, they weren't receptive to any of the facts that you were bringing? Or
They
you were
shut me
just
down.
bringing up the situation
They
yourself?
literally shut me down mid-sentence.
So have you, so what progress have you made in this particular situation for your children? Has anything changed?
Yeah, I attempted something which I shouldn't have attempted. I attempted to homeschool, and it just didn't work out. It just didn't work out. I gave it the old college try, but I went today and re-registered back in the school. But what I am going to do is I am going to make a list of opt-out situations to give to them and give it to them.
The reason why I said, I'd like to one more thing, is because, right, as school board officials, we don't scrutinize every specific detail. We trust the administration to come to us with the appropriate thing. So,
That's why they're paid. That's their
right,
job.
I mean, we trusted them to do it. But my point is what I'm coming to understand in talking with administrators is that they don't even know the whole truth about Common Core. They don't know any.
No, you're right.
But if you see on TV and everything, all the educators are against the Common Core curriculum. The head of the teachers union is against it. None of this Common Core developed by the government or developed nationally had nothing to do with any educators.
You know what's one of the things that I found out about this curriculum? That it prepares your kid for a community college.
Yes.
I did a little Google search on community colleges. They're popping up all over the country. So there is like an insidious master plan here, you know, which is basically dumbing down of America, but there is things in play.
But Jackie, to your point, it really takes away from the teacher what the teacher is really supposed to do, what she's been trained to do, what they do highly effectively. Because it takes that away and it puts it into what you must teach
Yes.
in basically a test.
You can't allow that. I won't allow that.
My name is Steve Valance. I'm up from Pocono Mountain School District up on the mountain. This is only my second time coming to one of these Tea Party events. I'm liking what I'm hearing. 2 words for anybody on the school board or school administration: civil disobedience. Whatever they tell you to do, and if you believe what this federal government today tells you, you're a fool. There hasn't been one word of truth coming out of Washington, D.C., coming out of Harrisburg. They're all lying to you. Wake up about that. Number 2, if you're on a school board or you're an administrator or a teacher, it is your responsibility to find out what the children are going to learn. And if you as a teacher or an administrator don't like it, you better open your mouth and scream.
That's right.
If you're not, you're part of the problem.
That's right.
I'm from the 60s, and the chant was, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. School boards are part of the problem. We, as an organization, need to put up people to the school boards that are willing to look out for our children, their education, what they're being taught, and their morals and mores. Not this liberal garbage that's being taught today. These kids can't even speak. I'm sorry, young man, but you used the word like 4 times in your little sentence. These kids are almost functionally illiterate. Thank you.
My grandson's math book, all of the characters in the books that I read going through school were regular American names. Well, there's Mohammed, there's Khalid, there's all of these strange Middle East names. He lives in Boston. And this is what the math book is. And all of the examples, and every example that he has to solve every math problem 4 different ways, and draw a picture, turn it upside down, turn it this way, turn it, no 2, 4, 6, 8, and you memorize your tables. No memorizing your tables. You have to do all these crazy things with all these words, and every single one of the words are foreign. And it's ridiculous.
We have to get back to basics.
Yes.
Without any speculation, if we can avoid it, what does anybody really know about Common Core Incorporated? Where the first drafts came from?
From what I heard, the United Nations and Bill Ayers.
Bill Ayers.
Agenda 21.
You ever heard of George Soros?
Yeah.
Yes,
George
He's with
Soros.
the T.E.A. Foundation. He's pumping a lot of money.
yes.
Do we know that, or is that speculation?
No, it's a fact. Also, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation,
Yes.
they're pumping millions of dollars in this because he's the one that's gonna get the contract to do the computer upgrades and everything.
That raises another subject. Of course, it's data mining, the information
Yeah.
that you and your children have to provide to the authorities.
No, hold it, stop. That's not true. That's not true.
Well, not now.
Not now,
right?
okay? And that's one thing that we need to check on, because I talked to Tony Lynch about that the other day. And after I got back from Harrisburg, and he indicated to me that Bangor had contracted with some sort of a contractor to start sucking up all this information and shipping it off somewhere. And I said, stop immediately and pick up the phone, call the responsible person at PDE and clarify for sure, 100%, as to whether or not what I heard was in fact true. Because during that period, when those first regulations had already been approved, I believe most school districts were collecting a bunch of stuff that they were not collecting in the past. And I don't think they have to do that anymore. So it's something that we need to check on, but I believe for sure the family stuff I know for a fact. The only question is, because the words they use are no increase in the collection of student data. Well, what does that mean, okay? But I think that's something easily checked on.
And around 2005 or 2006, Gates put $20 million into the program in order to develop this kind of data collection.
Yeah.
And I think I can't guarantee that there was a contract with the Gates Foundation in order to utilize that data, for their own purposes.
In my personal opinion, that's the most intrusive portion of this whole thing. And I know for a fact that that was part of what was originally agreed to. So perhaps the best approach here is let's make sure that hopefully the most intrusive portion of this thing has been eliminated. And I think we can do that fairly quickly, okay? It's my understanding is there will be absolutely no collection of parental information as a result of the implementation. It says it right black and white. The other thing is, any expansion of student information. I've had people from PDE say the only thing that leaves the school is aggregate test data. There's nothing that leaves the school that identifies an individual student. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Based upon what this committee did the other day.
That's my understanding, right.
That's
So it's still in the
published
school,
in papers.
available for the parents, obviously for the teachers and what have you. But it's my understanding that there is nothing that's student-specific and certainly nothing family-oriented that's leaving the school. It may have been in the past, but it's not supposed to be doing it now.
But when you said leaving the school, you mean being sent by the school. However, all of this data is in a computer. And where do you think the computers are? They're all being tapped at will by who, and you don't know who. So, I mean, as far as anything being personal and not available, that day is gone.
Yeah.
I mean, just go to your doctor's office, there's no files there, no file cabinet, no piece of paper at all, everything's in there. And, you know, who's looking at it?
Yes, sir.
My name's William Taylor Ryle. I'm from Chester County. I'm the founder and executive director of the County Sheriff Brigades of Pennsylvania. And I've been studying constitutional law in Pennsylvania for 24 years. I'm not an attorney. There are a number of documents that I've written that are on our website. I would encourage people to get on it, and I'll hand out a paper that has the site on it.
Yeah.
One of them that I'll hand out is Just Say No to Common Core. There's another one, more on Common Core. This is just one issue, but it boils down to whether the government has the authority to do what they're doing. And everybody in government takes an oath of office to support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth, and to discharge their duties with fidelity. It's Article 6, Section 3 of the Pennsylvania Constitution. And if you haven't gotten a copy of the Pennsylvania Constitution, I'd recommend you get lots of them. Because over the 22 years that I've been asking people in government whether they've read this document, over 90%, probably closer to 95% say no. Now they might be afraid because they might be afraid of the next question. What does Article 1, Section 1 say as an example? The only thing in the Constitution about education is there's to be a thorough and efficient educational system. That's all the Commonwealth has a responsibility to do. The federal government has zero authority, zero, to be involved in anything to do with education.
It does not appear in the Constitution at all. Anything related to education or teaching is not
Well,
in the federal
the
Constitution.
way that you cripple this is to get out, people get out to your school boards because we can stop accepting the money from the federal government and they would stop dictating our lives.
And that's the bribe, if I could finish. The bribe is the cash. And everybody knows that after a couple of years, 3 years, it runs out, and then the local folks are there to pick it up, the program's in place, and you're saddled. That's always been the game, it'll continue to be the game. This issue is a 10th Amendment issue, and it was settled by Sheriff Richard Mack in 1997 in his decision of the Supreme Court. And I would encourage you to get a copy of this little book. I have a few here. Let me read to you what the Supreme Court said on this very issue, if I may. Now, Sheriff Mack points out that if you take the bribe, then you're contractually obligated until you get rid of the bribe. And the recommendation that I have in my Just Say No to Common Core is send the $45 million or whatever it is back, don't accept anymore, and tell them to get the hell out of Pennsylvania.
That was the idea that the Free State Project was pushing, that a group that was supposed to move to New Hampshire, was that when they went there and made the state a libertarian paradise or whatever, then you would be able to stop accepting any mandates, and
the people of this Commonwealth, county by county, need to tell the government to say no. That's all right. It's called nullification. If you want more information about that, we can do it another day. But here's the summary of the case by Scalia, the court opinion. We held in New York, that was a 1992 Supreme Court case, that Congress cannot compel the states to enact or enforce a federal regulatory program. This is a federal regulatory program, isn't it? Today we held that Congress cannot circumvent that prohibition by conscripting the state's officers directly. The federal government may neither issue directives requiring the state to address particular problems, nor compel the state officers or those of their political subdivisions. School boards are political subdivisions. To administer or enforce a federal regulatory program. It matters not whether policy making is involved, and no case-by-case weighing of the burdens or benefits is necessary. Such commands are fundamentally incompatible with our constitutional system of dual sovereignty. That's the states and the federal government are supposed to check each other. Madison's very clear in 51 about this. We have a compound republic here. So the issue is Common Core, or whatever you want to call it, going all the way back to what in the early 90s was no, that's later. Outcome-based education. Anita Ho fought that. I was working with her on that, and others were. But the point being is, this goes all the way, actually, I trace it back to 1892, where this started with the Committee of 10. So if you want to see how our system has changed, you've got to go beyond parties. It's not the party issue. It's a system of converting this country to a socialist police state. If you don't believe that, well, stay tuned. Anyway,
Yes.
the dissenting opinion is quite interesting. It was written by Stevens. If Congress believes that such a statute, that was the Brady bill, by the way, and there the federal government wanted the local police, chief law enforcement officers, the sheriffs in the West, here I don't know who they are, the DA I guess thinks he is. But the point being is to collect information about guns and give it to the feds at no cost, and if they didn't do it, they could be fined or imprisoned or both. And Sheriff Mack said, no, not me, and 5, 6 other sheriffs eventually joined him. And they won this case. It's a 10th Amendment case. So here we go, Congress, in their the Supreme Court in their dissenting opinion. If Congress believes that such statutes will benefit the people of the nation and serve the interest of cooperative federalism, whatever that is, better than an enlarged federal bureaucracy, we should accept both its policy judgment and its appraisal of its constitutional power. BS. And what does Scalia say? You know, this is great having a judge tell you what to say when he would tell him BS. He says that the dissenting opinion is empty formalistic reasoning of the highest order, end quote. In other words, a nice way of saying BS.
That's right.
So the point is, if the school boards or the supervisors, all of whom take oaths, right? You took an oath, right? So everybody takes an oath, but they don't read the documents. How can you understand it? If you don't read it, you got to understand it. If I can understand it, anybody can. I realize I spend a lot of time, and there's a lot of people that are here to help. The point is, there is no authority for the federal government to do anything. What happens? They give a bribe. Rendell signed a contract. All right, and Corbett had to agree to implement Common Core before he was even allowed to run for governor. All right, so this is a done deal. 85% of Common Core is a done deal. The 15% is under the state possible control. That's the contract. And I don't care what anybody tells you, they can't change that contract. Now, why is Bill Gates so involved? You're right. They're going to sell computers and software, and they're going to make billions. So of course he's going to invest millions. All right? And he's a liberal socialist. The point is, we the people have got to stop saying yes. We've got to instruct those who work for us and say no, and mean it, and network together, and stand up and say, you will not violate your oath of office. If you do, we have a place for you to spend a long time.
Here, here. Absolutely.
Oh, I must correct that statement. After due process of law.
I'll try to curtail my emotions at this little diatribe. Anyway, the basic fundamental problem, like this gentleman just said, it's money coming from the federal government. It's free money, so school boards think, okay? It's still coming out of their own pocket. The problem is, we have had school boards, and Pocono Mountain School District is just as guilty as any other school district in this entire Commonwealth. They have had liberal, democratic superintendents up there, and I know the one guy, Fennig, personally. He was the biggest spendthrift in the state of New Jersey before he came here to get a job where nobody knew him. And then he was the biggest spendthrift up there. All they did for the last 5 years was to raise the school board taxes. When we got somebody in there that was fiscally responsible and started making cuts in the budget, school taxes remained the same for the following year and went down 3 mils the last year.
2 mils.
2 mils, I'm sorry, 2 mils, okay? Why? Because they did the tough job. They cut spending, something liberals, that doesn't register between their ears. Cut spending, easier to raise taxes and spend more than to find a way to cut spending. You were probably at the school board meeting when I got up and spoke. I don't know whether you remember me. I made the suggestion that we should, huge school buses, the big full-size jobs, taking kids home from school with 4 kids on.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay?
Well, in reality, you have 2 people. Wouldn't they go? Meg Dilger and Jackie Leonard were 2 of the people responsible for making those cuts.
That's right.
And I thank you so very much for it. Believe me, I give credit where credit is due. I have now seen the smaller school buses, 3/4 full, that's fine. They don't burn the big diesel fuel. I've seen the maintenance department, a brand new tire coming off a school bus and a brand new tire going back on. We shouldn't be doing that stuff. We either totally, I'm getting off topic, I'm sorry. But we need to cut spending. When you cut spending, your bills are not as high. And when your bills are not as high and you can meet your bills with the money you're bringing in, you don't need the federal government dangling a carrot in one hand and a spiked club in the other.
Right.
And then you can get your job done properly.
But the way it works, in all due respect, the way it works is the feds offer all these funds, and the governor gets a piece of that to spend the way he wants to.
That's correct.
And the parties get a piece of it. They can dole it out. It's all a bribe. And until we start getting back to fundamental law, where the people in government understand that they can't do this, they are prohibited from doing it. All right? We're not doing our job. We're not instructing those who work for us, you either do this, this, and this, or guess what? We're going to organize ourselves in a way that you will be removed from office. Now, you can do it at election time. They always tell you that's the only time. It's not the only time. We've just lost that ability because the court system is in total control, and they have been running this show for 150 years. 150 years. So if you want to learn more about that, please have me come back. Sure.
You're touching on the most fundamental issue, is that people do not get informed about local politics.
That's true.
It takes people like myself, like May Dilger, like Brian Stevens, Gary Summers, everybody that have been regular people that started to pay attention, had a passion, got involved, and made a difference. But I can tell you, having helped out at other elections since I've been elected to the school board, people don't even know what a school board director does. But we control a huge part of your life. That's your finances, businesses coming into the area. But what's happening at a local level is symptoms of what is happening at a higher level. You know, the Obamacare was you had to pass it
To know what's in it.
I stood up at a school board meeting and said we should not be accepting the Common Core curriculum until the governor makes a decision on it. Do you know we voted on this curriculum long before September? So why did we adopt it as a school district when the governor has not even ruled on it?
He did. He signed the contract.
But in September, I'm saying this went all the way back to the previous year. So this, you were saying it was little by little by little by little by little.
It's a nudge.
And that's the way it came about. But the only way that we're going to make a difference in this is that if we get involved, you get involved and take this back, to the school district.
Out of all the discussion here today that I've been listening to, right now, I noticed that we got four points of attack for this. He has the best one so far, which is constitutionally. That's one form of attack. The money and the expenditure side of it, which is another great attack. The third one is basically what he suggested, is getting all the Tea parties together as one big collective in protest. And the main one is the grassroots, which is basically us, the parents, the outrage, getting us fired up. Those 4 points of attack, I think that we could do away with this, and I don't care what any politician says, because constitutionally alone, we got a leg to stand on.
Just say no.
But the main point of attack is the cost, the total cost of what this is going to be.
Right.
Does anybody know what it is?
No.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what it is.
More than
I
your
don't think it's
family.
fair that it actually implemented without that number.
Without that.
Without that number, that's what I'm saying.
The biggest
Why am I
cost-
gonna buy a textbook or send people for training when I don't know what it's gonna do, or how much it's gonna cost?
But unfortunately, okay, an extraordinarily powerful, influential state senator, Andy Dinham, okay, one of only 4 people that voted against this thing when the State Board of Education voted for it, spent an hour and a half in front of the Regulatory Review Commission last week. I heard him talk.
Mhm.
That was his point. He lost. He
Okay,
lost.
3-2.
He lost.
3-2.
So the only point I'm making is, that was the point that he was making. Okay, the point you're making about tell me what it's gonna cost. That was his argument for defeating it. He lost, they voted for it anyways.
okay, so they voted for it, so I'm on a board, and I say, you know what? I'm not gonna send that teacher, and I'm gonna have 5 votes, we're not gonna send that teacher. What's the ramifications of
They're
that?
gonna cut
What's
the
the
funding.
ramifications? The ramifications is you potentially are gonna run the risk, okay, of having some of your student aid taken away from you, okay? The bigger risk that you're gonna run is, believe me,
It is now 8:30 and the library will close
when
in
the
1.5
parents,
hours.
when the parents
starting at
stand
9
up,
o'clock.
when the parents find out, okay, that actions on your part potentially are gonna jeopardize their ability to graduate because they're gonna fail a Keystone exam, they're gonna say, I don't care, do it anyways. That's the risk you run.
What if they pass the Keystone test without this? So you're telling me the
Everything
Keystone
from-
test has to do with all this new implementation,
Yes.
and no kid will pass the Keystone test
That's-
without
that's
this?
the bottom line.
And aren't they working with the
That's their
college
contention.
entrance exams too, to make all the material
So
coordinate?
this school
That I
that
don't know.
has Common Core already, that has a 95%,
They don't
No,
have.
no, no, they don't
They
have
don't
it.
have common.
they don't have Common Core.
No, and they don't need it.
They don't need it.
No, but
Well,
you have to realize that
But if it's
your
gonna
kids,
come down to
your
Pennsylvania
kid,
having
school
to
has to
implement
reach
it.
a grade for the school district to keep getting money.
So,
It's like No Child Left Behind. The whole push to that was to make AYP so federal funding would continue.
Wasn't the whole push to that actually the ability to match the US at an international scale regarding,
no,
that's what
get
they
the
said it
funds.
was, it wasn't like actual
Well-
America, it was how America compared to Japan.
It's all about money, people.
Yeah, it's all about money.
So does Common Core have to be adopted, or does it not in Pennsylvania?
It's already been done.
It is the law. So why doesn't this place, who has the 95% rate of, it's in Cedar Valley, right? Pennsylvania?
The
Oh,
reason,
I'm still-
let me add some little thought here. The reason it's allegedly law is because the General Assembly allegedly gave the school board the authority to do this without the General Assembly doing it. They did it years ago. All right? Well, first of all, they didn't have authority to do that, so that's null and void. If they do something, I don't care where it is in government, if it's unconstitutional or it's misapplied, it might be a constitutional law, but it's applied to an individual, as an example, that has rights, and you can't violate those rights, then that action is null and void from the time they did it. The next problem is everybody's been brainwashed to believe that only the courts can decide that. And they use Marburg versus Madison as the place. That is a lie. That's not what that case said. It's not what Marshall said. In fact, he said all departments are responsible to follow their oath and the constitutions. They don't do it, but that's a lie. So the point is, you and I are the bosses in this country. We're the sovereigns. We're the consent of the governed, right? Declaration of Independence. So you can decide. We need to get together because the law is sufficient. That's why I'm saying network the counties together, but people in the counties. But you can say to the school board or the Department of Education, no, we're not doing it, and I don't care where you took a bribe or not, we're not doing it because what you're doing is unconstitutional. It doesn't exist. They can call it a law. It's called colored law. It has the form and appearance of law, but it is not law. It is totally null and void from the time they did it. If it's fraudulent, if it's unconstitutional, it's misapplied to you or your children, and they can't do it according to the Declaration of Rights or the Bill of Rights if it's a federal jurisdiction, they have no authority. You can stop it on those grounds. Say no. Will they take the funds? Frankly, they can keep their funds. We spend, the remedy to that? Put your alleged taxes that they steal from you in an escrow in Pennsylvania, and when the federal government starts, well, it's not the federal government, the central government starts behaving themselves, and we'll pay for it by apportionment. That's what the Constitution says. This is the remedy. And we're to the point, you're absolutely right, we're to the point where it's either now or never.
Yeah.
All right? So I'm passionate, obviously. The structure's there. I would encourage you all to get these documents, these couple documents from me, get on the website and start reading.
Absolutely.
All right? And I'll be glad to come back and help people understand more about the law.
Thank you.
Yes,
We're referred a few times the suggestion, which I think is a great one, to mass power of the Tea Party in Commonwealth. And groups get together. One of the things that occurred to me was when we were having a debate over Obamacare and defunding, that there was a mechanism called defunded.com or don'tfundit.com. 2.7 million people in 15 days signed up for that. It meant something. What I think is maybe there's a mechanism we can use across the state about Common Core and get out the message that way and let the people know who are running next year. And we change the laws all the time. We change prohibition, we change Red Scott, we've changed laws all the time. We can change this too. Maybe through the use of technology, it might help us.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. At grassroots, man, I'm for it.
There's 29 states that are trying to get back out of Common Core that went in.
I heard Iowa signed some kind of an
Texas
executive
said
order.
no from the start.
Get rid of it. Iowa, I think, the governor signed some kind of an executive order doing away with this.
Yeah.
Oh, I think there's movements in every state. There's movements in a lot of counties around Pennsylvania. They set up in this conference call every night. So, there is impetus. But with what happened last Thursday, with the difficulty in trying to get these things actually to a point where you know how to attack and when to attack, if it gets into the courts, it will drag on forever. We don't have forever in our educational system, which is somewhat dysfunctional.
And Greer, let me give you a suggestion on something that might work. I heard a lady last Thursday read an excerpt out of something that her daughter was given at school, and it was pretty disgusting. Didn't have much of an impact. But if we could find a real clear example of that in any school anywhere, okay? And if you could get 20 or 30 or so parents, it'll take a lot, to storm a school board meeting and stick it in the face of the administration and the school board and say, this is unacceptable. Is the reason that this is in the classroom because of this Common Core thing? Then I want it stopped. And hopefully, it's going to come out of a textbook. Then potentially, you might be able to get the school board to go back to the Pennsylvania Department of Education, or whoever's making the recommendation on the textbook, and say, find another textbook. We're not using this one anymore.
We want our money back.
Yeah, but I think you'll just substitute one and the same, another one that's just like it.
Well, yeah, but then the message is a better message. The better message is, are you telling me that there are no offensive books that support the Common Core curriculum? Because then I think you've got something. See, the problem that Mike had, okay, was he was there as a lone wolf, all right? I think if you get, I'm just trying to visualize myself sitting there at a school board meeting, and I got 20 or 30 parents, okay, coming at me with a clear example of something that is off color, you know, whatever it is, and make sure you got the right example, all right? And saying, this is not right. How can you possibly be putting this in front of our children, all right? This
We need
has to
parental
stop.
outrage, we need more parental
Okay.
outrage.
So Pocono Mountain meets twice a month. The next meeting is December 4th. You know, find out where Stroudsburg meets, find out where East Stroudsburg meets, find out where Pleasant Valley meets, and come there. I guarantee you, as a school board director, I will give you that time to talk. I will, you know, let your voice.
But I think really what has to happen to address this is that more than teachers, more than the students have to have access to the textbooks. I tried to get online because the social studies textbook for Pocono Mountain is supposedly online. Couldn't really get that. I got into the curriculum and they have these data source outlets for the kids to get online in order to get information about their subject matter. One happened to be the White House. I wonder what the subject matter there would be. And one other was a very liberal organization. And from what my understanding was, that the textbooks that were made available were highly liberal textbooks from companies that are noted for highly liberal textbooks.
The process is the teachers become facilitators. The program that will be online. And if you don't answer it right, they'll run it again, and they'll run it again, and run it again until the student finally figures out, oh, I got to answer it this way in order to pass. And that's the indoctrination, brainwashing process. The teachers are going to become irrelevant, unfortunately. And unfortunately, their education in the in college is becoming the same way and has since the 60s. So, one thing I'd like to add, encourage you to get a copy of this book, all right? Freedom of speech. You said freedom of speech and freedom of the press and speech and libels. Everybody says it's just the public, the official press that has this protection. Listen to this. The printed press shall be free to every person who may undertake to examine the proceedings of the legislature or any branch of government. So it's not a gift that you're being given to speak. You have a right.
Amen.
Right.
Amen.
Right. And the government doesn't realize this. And no law shall ever be passed to restrain the right thereof. So how in the world can anybody make a decision that you can't speak and have the police tell them where to escort you out? Good thing the police didn't do it.
Thank you, but we have to be out of here.
So the bottom line is, there's more to this section. Please get a copy of it.
Any other questions or comments for the good of the order? One more comment.
Something you should know about me. I've been talking
Saturday night, Saturday night,
This gentleman's talk.
Saturday night in Kentucky, they held their first school. And Matt Bevin, Tea Party candidate.
If you want these papers,
7 votes, in
don't see me.
Boone County.
Okay.
You're interested in.
Okay, any other comments? Meeting adjourned. It's been a terrific meeting. Thanks for our participants. And thanks to the people.
Writer.